I remember I was watching some one of those YouTube videos of those guys who teaches how to grow your own business, and I don't really watch those because it's always like, I don't know what they try to sell, but they try to get these guys on whatever they're doing, whatever scheme they got going on. But he did say something really interesting, because one of the guys he was interviewing one of his students, and his student was talking about, well, I buy he's like, what do you do every day? And he's like, oh, I buy some gear, and I watch some videos, and I make a plan for this, and I make a plan for that, and I think about what I'm going to do here. And he goes, you have no clients. You need to be emailing every day. That's the first thing you do, is just email in his case, email for 12 hours straight. But like in my case, I'm editing also. I got a couple other projects. So, yeah. But I really took that to heart. Like, I have nothing right now, and I can hem and haw and walk around and think about things and just, make plans and practice with my gear, but I need clients.
Every once in a while, there are videographers that start to take up live streaming, and they feel like they're starting over, and they're just trying to figure out how they can get in more clients and what they should do to land more customers. In this video, I am sharing a special interview that I did with someone who went through my 6-figure live streamer course and has learned how to live stream all A to Z, but he wanted to share a little bit about his experience and how he went from being a wedding videographer and a video editor with a business partner to now transitioning into the live streaming space. So in this interview, I'm going to share a bunch of helpful tips and advice that I gave to him when it comes to kind of rebuilding and starting a video business, getting things off the ground and building that network. So go ahead and take a look and enjoy the interview. If you haven't used Riverside before, this platform is basically what I've been using for recording virtual calls, because what it does is it records a higher quality version on your side locally, and it uploads while we're on the call.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then if your Wi-Fi was really bad, when I hit stop recording, it'll say, oh, there's 20% left to upload. And if we just sit there on the call and just chat, hang out, it'll start uploading the rest of it as we go. And I've been able to use this for people in other countries. They can jump on their phone,
wow.
computer, wherever, and it'll give me a full 1080 video signal that I can use for later on. And then they've got other features later. There's like a built-in editor, and you can edit the tracks, and they've got some AI noise reduction stuff going on now, and it'll fully transcribe it. And you can even like pick out 1-minute segments, and it'll take the transcription, figure out the good moments, give you 1-minute clips, and now you've got shorts that are ready to go.
I saw your YouTube video on that, and it was too late because I had done like a comedy show, and I had turned around and was talking to the comedians if they wanted some editing done, and it would have come in so handy just to kind of like boom, 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 there's your social media.
Yeah.
So once that opportunity comes up again, I'll definitely be looking into Riverside for sure.
Yeah, and hit me up when you do. I have an affiliate link, but I think it also gives you a couple months free or something like that.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's got a little deal there for you, and
love that.
It's been good to me. I think the maybe one time that it failed on me, I actually reached out to their support, and their engineers dug into the files, and they were like, "Hey, we recovered it. Here's the video file."
Whoa.
I was like, "Okay." Like, not gonna get mad about that one.
Wow. Meanwhile, I was trying to get a hold of Dropbox yesterday and support, and they're like, your plan doesn't include support. I'm like, what? You gotta love companies who actually like are there for you in a pinch,
Welcome to the subscription world.
Yes.
Where no one cares unless you're paying for it.
Oh my god. You have to subscribe for customer service. I never even thought that would be a thing.
So let's kind of jump into the chat. Like, it really, I think the best way that I can help anybody is if I just have a better understanding of like how they got to where they are first, and just like what your business is, what you've done in the past, what your experiences are. So I'd love to just get kind of a synopsis, if you will, and then I'm happy to dive right into any questions that pop up for you, or just to learn a little more context and then dive in. If
Awesome.
That's cool with you.
Great. Yeah. It's about 12 years ago, I started a wedding videography company. My business partner who we formed the company with, he had just come back from what he was doing, and I wasn't really doing much but making margaritas at Chili's, and he was a photographer. And so he kind of was telling me like, hey, we can make videos with these DSLRs now, and we can do wedding videos. And I thought that was really funny, because like, who wants to film weddings? But then he showed me kind of what the new kind of thing was happening, and I was like, wow, like an opportunity to be creative for money. The story's kind of built into every wedding already. Didn't seem like too much of a leap to just kind of learn the camera. And I had edited in college a little bit, so I kind of knew how to string together a story at least. So he pretty much took charge of like the shooter one kind of guy, and I was with the groom all day and kind of setting up behind the scenes like the audio and the lighting, and kind of always trying to be ahead of the game and setting up the production ahead of schedule as he got like the beauty shots and whatnot. And then I would edit the whole thing afterwards, and he would just move on to booking other weddings. And it worked out really well for about 10 or 12 years. Obviously COVID happened, and we had this nice business going where we were in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Madison, Wisconsin, just kind of running that triangle the whole time. And in the middle is a bunch of golf courses, so it's a really nice place to do weddings. And so we were feeling pretty good about things, but COVID happened, and we kind of went for a year without much. And then we kind of got back into it, and we were hiring live streamers to help us broadcast the weddings out to the country of elderly people who couldn't make it and things like that. And I remember the guy who was live streaming for us, Lou, he was like, hey, there's kind of an industry cropping up around this, and I just, and this didn't pop into my mind until like a month ago, but I remember thinking at that time, like, God, if I could start over, and just instead of this, like, something I didn't really like about weddings was you're just kind of always running, kind of behind, always behind, just hoping to get what you could get. And I was really like proud of the fact that I never had bad audio during a ceremony, never had bad audio during a speech. The lighting was always good. Like I was always really particular on like making sure the production was set up right. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, that sounds like a business I could just be well prepared, set up things, run the system, break it down. No real editing afterwards, unless there's a discussion afterwards. And anyways, all that to say, I kind of put that aside, and we continued on. And then we ended up going our separate ways, business-wise. We still work together. I think things have kind of evened out the way they should have. I still edit for him. He still films weddings, and we still have a really great relationship. It just wasn't the partnership anymore. And at that moment, I remember it must have been maybe 6 months or so. I'm just like, what do I do? Like, I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin. We had just moved up here. I'm applying for jobs, and no one's really like interested because I've been running my own business for 10, 15 years. I was in a band before that, so I wasn't even working then. I was just playing music. And so it's like, what do I tell people? And then I'm poking around on Reddit, and I come across a discussion about live streaming and how it's makes a little bit of money. And I was like, yo, okay, like that's, then I started to kind of connect the dots from before. And I'm like, I know how to work a camera, so I can at least expose right and get the right white balance and stuff. So we got that taken care of. And I'll be darned, I must have been Googling or something, and YouTube started, giving me your videos and your class. And it was kind of a no-brainer in a way, because it seemed like, and it turned out to be true, that it basically had everything kind of distilled into like a series. I'm talking like little things like, I remember when you said like plug the audio into the camera so you don't desync or whatever. And would I have figured that out 10, 15 hours into it or 3 productions later? Probably, but like just to have these little things like, oh, I'm writing that one down. Like, and that way when I get the gear, I kind of already am ahead of the game on these sort of like little things that make a production go really well. Like a top-notch production, and not just like a set up a camera and hope for the best kind of thing. So was instantly hooked, not to, glaze too much, but like I was just really into it. Watched the whole thing, took the class last summer, probably got to about this time of year when I started purchasing gear and started like reinvesting my wedding stuff into live streaming stuff, and got a couple of Canon N300s because I just wanted to make sure I could say I was a multi-camera studio, even though I'm saving up for the big boy, the 500 with the auto tracking. Like I can't wait for that. But that was kind of going to be one of my hooks, that like, we can save money on camera crew. Like, so hopefully I could tell people like, hey, with just an assistant or two and me, we can pull off a production that you normally have to have a couple of camera guys for too. So that was kind of my first marketing plan. And yeah, so I just kind of dove right in and started doing, it became about, December or so, I reached out to a couple of orchestra bands and just tried to set up like a free live stream to all the, like they do a Christmas concert, and I wanted to stream to all the like senior centers and assisted living centers around the Madison area, just to kind of give them a place to gather and kind of get in the Christmas spirit. Something that like I think live streaming is really good at, of like bringing people together. And so that the conductor was really on board for that. He threw me in, and I just wanted to practice, make sure all the gear worked, make sure that your classes were pointing me in the right direction.
Yeah.
But they sure were. So I got that out of the way, did a couple more free gigs just to kind of get some content so I could show other people what's going on. And I think that's probably where we ended up meeting. I don't want to talk your ear off too much. Am I doing okay?
No, you were perfectly
I feel like
fine.
I'm rambling. I'm like, is he supposed to ask a question now?
No, I just wanted to kind of get some context on,
good.
like, how you landed here. And it's always funny to hear the wedding thing, because that was kind of my start. Was when I first went freelance, connected to a few other video people locally, second camera or second shooter for, wedding videographers. And pretty quickly it was just kind of like, yeah, not my favorite thing to do. And, at first I thought, oh man, these are like really long days, really exhausting. And now here I am doing like 14-hour days sometimes for like bigger conferences and stuff. So I didn't move that much further away from what I was doing. But,
nope.
But yeah, it's been interesting. And fun fact on the cameras, I think I have to look into which models that's compatible with, but Canon released a like auto tracking light version that I think in a firmware update is available now. And if you update the firmware on your cameras, you should be able to get a very basic auto tracking capability without having to pay for that license. So it's actually been like a note on my to-do list for a while of like, update your Canon cameras and test this, but I just haven't gotten to it yet, since we're jumping back into our busy season. Yeah, so I don't know like what the limitation is, right? Like, what's the difference between dropping the $1,200 on the update versus what comes with it? I don't know. I'll have to kind of play around with that and see how that goes first. But it does sound like there's something available, so you might be able to install that.
I can't wait. Yeah, but I have to play around with that.
I guess tell me, where things at with the business right now, because it's great that you've kind of moved around and ebbed and flowed between having a business partner, not having a partner, still working together, a little bit. Like, where's the business stand now, and maybe what are some of the most recent projects you've had? And then, would definitely love to hear any struggles or just things that you're like, here's where I could do better. What can you help me out with?
Sure. Yeah, it's we're still getting going here, much to the chagrin of my wife. We just got married a year ago, and suddenly I changed careers. She's like, what are you doing?
Sounds like a good time.
It's perfect timing. But we're still getting going. I found I was I need to get better at my grandpa. He owned a business back in the day, and he kept telling me like it's the relationship building was the most important thing for him, and how I'm not saying it'll be this easy for me, but 2 or 3 people gave him like 75% of his work for 30 years, and how to build like that sort of trust with people. And I think one of my main goals is to kind of find people that become friends and become part, like I become part of their vision. And that way, as they do conferences every year and things, I can, that I'm on the same page with them, and we have that working relationship for years. So that's kind of my ultimate goal, is to build like a nice 10, 15 person, relationship where at least I have steady every year kind of work with them, and they know that they love what I do and I love what they do. So that's kind of my plan. It's kind of it's not really, I don't have marketing meetings with myself, but I remember I was watching some one of those YouTube videos of those guys who teaches how to grow your own business, and I don't really watch those because it's always like, I don't know what they try to sell, but they try to get these guys on whatever they're doing, whatever scheme they got going on. But he did say something really interesting, because one of the guys he was interviewing one of his students, and his student was talking about, well, he's like, what do you do every day? And he's like, oh, I buy some gear, and I watch some videos, and I make a plan for this, and I make a plan for that, and I think about what I'm going to do here. And he goes, you have no clients. You need to be emailing every day. That's the first thing you do is just email for, in his case, email for 12 hours straight. But like in my case, I'm editing also. I got a couple other projects. So, but I really took that to heart. Like I have nothing right now, and I can hem and haw and walk around and think about things and just, you know, make plans and practice with my gear, but I need clients. So I just, every day I do like I go on Eventbrite and I'd find like 5 conferences locally, and I just email the coordinator. And it's tough because no one really answers, or, it's a lot of rejection for cold calling and cold emailing. But I just remember, like, it just takes 1 or 2, like just keep plugging away. And so every day I'm doing about 5 in the morning, and then I'd go do my work. And I finally got, a hold of somebody who actually was in the middle of figuring out how to take her conference virtual. And literally it was like a great moment for both of us because we had exactly what each other needed. And she brought me on board. So it was my first big conference. It was like 3 days long, and had the slides, had the multi-cameras, had the whole shebang. And if we would have, like you said, if we would have planned a little more beforehand, I could have brought in a virtual guest, but she ended up just sending in a video anyways, and then they just played it on a screen. But these are things that I'm going to come back to her after the holidays when we set up for the next conference next fall, and just be like, hey, here are moments where I can help even more. I can bring in live people. I can put another thing is sponsorships. I really try to tell people like, hey, this doesn't have to come out of your pocket. Like, I can play informational videos in between speakers. I can have graphics. People will go crazy over getting their name out there in front of hundreds of people that are joining your live stream, and they can be the one that foot the bill for this. So that's kind of an angle I've taken. And I finally made like a video, like hi, I'm Tim. This is Livestream Madison. This is what I do. Instead of just the email, now I attach a video, and that seems to have gotten a lot more engagement. So I finally buckled down after that guy was talking about get out there and find work. I went down and I recorded a 2-minute video of what I can offer, and to some nice, pretty music, and sent it out. And so that's just been my strategy so far, is the cold emails. And I know it's not the best, but it's kind of what I got right now.
It's still part of the strategy, right? Because I think that you're right. It's not the best because you're not the only person that's getting into their inbox, right? Mm-hmm. And you're competing with every other email that's coming through on a daily basis, and all the spam email that's getting through. And if I had $1 for like every voiceover artist that has emailed me and said, hey, I'm a voiceover artist, like here's my services, I'd be pretty wealthy right now, because I probably get one, multiple times a week. And so part of it is having to stand out in this crowded world. And I think you did a great job of making that video and having that, because that's what we would call evergreen content. It's something that you could, 3 years from now, you could redo it if you want to, but it's something that's going to be good for you for a while because it gets the message out there. Where my head instantly goes is you're definitely on the right track with, looking at places like Eventbrite, looking for what events are coming to town and starting to reach out in advance. Like, I just had this experience myself a few weeks ago where a podcasting conference was practically in my backyard. And I had been to this conference like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And I hadn't gone back since, because I had a podcast way back when, and I don't right now. And I just saw, that I still had old emails from the conference that were from the 2 event organizers. And I was like, I'm going to just email them and say, hey guys, I saw your conference is right in my backyard. I know it's been years, we're connected on social media, but you probably don't really remember who I am. I just wanted to say, look, I'm a videographer. I'm nearby. If you need any support on the video side, let me know. I'd be, I'm available those days, and I'd be happy to help. And they said, hey, look, we're already set for this year, but here's a free ticket to the conference. And the ticket's a couple $100. So I said, you know what? I'll take the days and go over to the conference and network. And I spent that time not in the actual ballroom watching all the keynote presentations. I jumped in every now and then, but my time was spent at the vendor booths, because those vendors and those sponsors are the people that were paying money to be there. I want to work with the people that are going to pay money and invest in being there. I don't care about Joe Schmo with a podcast who's sitting in the keynote room. I care about, Blackmagic Design, the camera company and live streaming company, had a booth there. Hollyland, the microphone and audio company and wireless intercom company, they were there. So like I'm going around working these booths and networking, especially in the off hours, because that's when they're the least busy. You know, everyone's in the keynote session, everyone's in the ballroom. So I'm going to go in when it's dead quiet and just work my way through the booths and connect with them. And next thing you know, like someone said, hey, we're working with, you know, this filmmakers group. We'd love to interview you. And they live streamed an interview. And I came back at whatever time they told me, and free marketing for me, right? So I've got free ticket to the event. I've got kind of the bug in the ear of the two organizers of, hey, like I do this if you ever need help for this. I've got free networking with all the sponsors there that have already invested money to be there. And if I'm lucky enough that, you know, I talk to a few attendees or the right person, then, you know, it'll certainly be a connection worth making. So you never know what comes out of doing that, you know, message on Eventbrite. And like you said, it might just take that one person. The way that I have kind of shifted my look into just marketing and outreach and getting clients has been, I kind of separate them now into two buckets. It's either incoming or outgoing. Incoming means they found me, right? They Googled videographer in Maryland or DC, and I came up and they found me. Outgoing is more of like I had to go out and find them. I had to build a relationship with somebody who referred me, but then it becomes an incoming lead because if they referred me, then that person found me through, you know, their connections. So I try to look at those two buckets, and the easier bucket to go after, right? The path of least resistance is more of that incoming side. So that's going to be, you know, creating your website, getting a Google business profile. So having a business profile listed where it's got your address, your service area. You can actually add in some keywords for your services and what you offer. Like when I put my listing into Google, I didn't just say ZMB Media, which is the company's legal name, but I think I called it something like ZMB Media Videography and Live Streaming. And so, you know, that's going to come up right away, and someone's going to see that and say, oh, I'm going to click on that as opposed to Joe Schmo Photo, who just happens to do video. So trying to create really targeted stuff that people can find. The Google business is the first and easiest. Just posting consistently to social media helps. I found that even on LinkedIn, like if you don't post on LinkedIn very frequently, it kind of like the algorithm just forgets about you. But I found that for the people that are posting consistently, like once a day or three, 4 times a week, it's something where the algorithm's going to start pushing you, and you can really optimize your LinkedIn profile to say available and open to work. I'm a videographer and live streamer. Here's what I do. Here's who I serve. And people will start to see that more and more, especially if you're posting stuff that gets shared and that people interact with. So I would find ways to post things that are going to engage in like a conversation, whether it's like a poll or just something that's polarizing, where you can be like, I don't think you should live stream with expensive cameras. And then like you can go on a rant about why you think that. And then people are going to come to the table to have a conversation about it and start answering with them and getting that buzz going. Another thing you could do is on your YouTube channel, you could go through like what are the frequently asked questions about live streaming that someone's going to have, and make a video, one for each one. So that when people do find you on social media, they're like, wow, this dude spent time to make 12 different videos about why you should live stream, how you make money live streaming, how to get more people to watch your live stream, how to make your live stream more interesting. So, and a lot of this stuff, it takes the work up front, but then it becomes evergreen. It becomes that sort of incoming path flow for more people to find and discover you. And then the big one that really I actually, you know, looked at some numbers on this for me. A lot of people don't realize this, but probably a large chunk, between 30 to 50% of my work is actually coming from other video companies. And you and I talked about this a little bit before we hopped on the call, but I think today alone, I've had 4 different requests from 3 different companies that are all other videographers, live streamers, AV, that need extra people and extra hands. And so many of them work with contractors like me. So I fill my empty days with a lot of that work from them. And so that's one of the bigger places that you could network. If you're getting up in the morning to fire off some emails, start finding those AV companies in the area, find the people that are doing pipe and drape, staging, lighting, sound, any of these things, and just approach them from the standpoint of not, I'm looking for something from you, but more of just, hey, I do video, I'm in the area, it looks like we're kind of in the same industry. Can I get coffee with you guys? Can I come see your warehouse? Can I tour your studio? Could we sit down to lunch? Do you have time for a Zoom call? Could I just call and chat with you and learn a little bit more? And that was kind of how a lot of that stuff got started for me in meeting those guys, was find the other people in the industry. I've had way more referrals from AV and video companies than I've ever had from event planners, project managers, the marketing person for an association. Although those positions are all people that I connect with in my work with my direct clients, I've had way more connection with the AV companies than I've had with trying to outreach and find, a random marketing or PR firm that, might want my services.
That's such a good piece of advice. I think it was one of the things that I was missing from the wedding industry when we became, I found the most effective way to book weddings was to become friends with the wedding planners and just, have that sort of friendly relationship one-on-one. And, boy, they just send you work, just like constant. And so I remember,
if they like you and you do good work,
sure,
they'll keep going.
Yeah, and I missed that for sure, and I haven't done it enough. But you just reminded me that I started. So because in lieu of that, I started reaching out to just little videography companies around Madison, and met two people who one connected me with C-SPAN, and one connected me with I filmed for her as she lives in California now, so I just film and send her work and stuff. And so it's work, and it's honestly, if I would have done the math, now that you're reminding me, if I look down and say like all the connections I've made so far, those two people have been very important. I should add to that.
Yeah.
Should definitely add to that.
There's a lot of value there, and I think it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh, well, they're my competitor. Like, why would I want to do this? And I will say, yes, there is one time that it has bitten me. I had someone who I brought on for a very long period of time, who worked, with the same client for many years. And, in one particular scenario, they did wind up taking over the client at what I'm assuming is maybe a cheaper rate. So, the caveat is like, when you are working with and partnering with other AV people, maybe consider some sort of non-compete clause or some sort of mutual agreement of like, hey, we're not here to screw each other over. Like, we are here to grow both of our businesses. But I will say, for the 99% of everybody else, it's been nothing but rewarding. And the strategy I pulled, and maybe something for you to think about, since it sounds like you have a couple people there locally you've started to kind of connect and grow with, was, so I had the same thing where I kind of saw that there was so much more we could all be doing if we connected. And I started doing just monthly meetups, coffee, lunch, or drinks and dinner or whatever. And it started with like 4 or 5 guys sitting around a kitchen table of just talking shop. Let's talk about shop. Let's share projects. Let's complain about annoying clients, like whatever it is. It was kind of like our therapy. And what happened was, over not even 6 months' time, it went from 4 people to like 35 people, and someone offering, let's meet up at my studio. I'll use my studio for this. And you'll start to realize that you can build that community around yourself anywhere you go that has other video people. And they weren't all videographers. Some of them were cinematographers or filmmakers, right? And do narrative work. And some of them were audio guys, and some of them were grip or lighting or whatever. Like, it didn't have to be all the same people, but it allowed us to build a bit of a community there. And what slowly started to happen was people realized this isn't a every man for themselves type of deal. This is actually an industry that really heavily relies on people that know other people that are good and show up and do good work. And, so I would say one of the best things you could do is really to start building that community and just make some sort of what we would call a mastermind group, some sort of just consistent, the third Thursday of every month, we're all going to meet for lunch. And every once in a while, someone's not going to make it, and that's okay. But, we're committed. It's on our calendar for the next year. We're all going to meet on a monthly basis. And, start to invite a couple new people into it as you meet them. Hey, I got this monthly meetup. You should come out, meet a few other people in the industry. Would love to have you there. And this is all free. It doesn't cost you anything. Anyone can go into Google and type in, videographer in my city and find 15 other guys in the industry and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know next week I'm getting together a couple video people locally to meet each other and network a little bit. Want to join? And it can start from there. And that group that started as 4 or 5 people is now 13,000 people in a Facebook group. And and anyone can join. It's called Videographers Connect. It's open for anybody. And now that group on a daily basis is just posts of, I'm a videographer. I'm looking to hire someone in, Charlotte, North Carolina, who's available. And 8 people comment, I'm available. Here's my portfolio. Here's my website, And so that should be a resource for everybody. But besides the point, I think you should take the lesson from that, which was, when you put yourself at the center of that, I know there's hundreds of people in that group that shoot way better stuff than me. There are guys that are, bringing in Porsches into a studio and working with Porsche. There are guys that are flying out to Japan and I know that I'm not the best, but my goal is to be pretty darn good, but to keep myself at the center of the circle, and then I'm always top of mind for everybody. So if someone knows that I live in the DC area, they're not going to have to go into that group to look for someone. They're going to be like, oh, I know Zephin's in that area. I'll hit him up first. And then, if I'm busy or I don't have a resource, I'll say, go to the group. Let's see who else we can find for you. But that puts you at the center of it all, kind of like, our solar system. You want to be at the center of the solar system and have all these people that revolve around you. And that's where a lot of that referral stuff will really get built up over time. And you just kind of gain that street cred.
Yeah, I think it's that all hits home. And I just think maybe I've been too, what's the word for it? Not scared to do it, but just kind of like, don't want to do it. Like I have no, desire to be an influencer, right? And so
Sure.
and so that's kind of been an obstacle for me as far as like just getting out there, because there is a fine line between having a face to your business and then being like the influencer guy. So
Right.
I definitely, that sounds like a path I should go down for sure. And that's a path that, like, during our weddings, I remember telling my business partner, like, we want to be the teachers, because the guys that we learn from, we think of them very highly, and, brides think of them very highly. And if we're the teachers, our clients will think of us highly. And I think that's kind of the same angle you're taking, is like, the more that you're trusted as a guy who, can coordinate all this or just be there, or like run, be the in-between between other people, the more people will respect you as, somebody that they can trust and want to bring them on board or go through you even. So
100%. And some of the times they might even be very clear in knowing that, like, this is not something that I do, but I might know someone, and then I can become a resource for them. And this doesn't, like I was saying, monthly meetings, this doesn't have to be hard. Like, you could just schedule a standing Zoom call, and it's like, every month, we're just going to get together on the same day or same time, and we just had the Zoom call. And, the goal is to make sure that at least when you pick the first 4 or 5 people, that you can encourage them to invite others and grow that group a little bit. But then that pressure is kind of taken off of you. Like, I hate to sound like it's a pyramid scheme, right? The idea is like, you've got to bring in people underneath of you, but all it really does take is, 2 or 3 other people that are really excited about the idea of building and growing this network. And then you don't have to be the network guy. You're still at the middle of it, and you're still just holding people accountable to showing up that once a month. But like, you don't have to be the guy that's constantly going out and finding other people. And that was actually a strategy that was kind of pulled from when I was back in BNI. The idea was, BNI was a weekly networking group. There would be only one person from each industry in the group. So my group only had one realtor, and no other realtor could join the group. But everyone had to play a part in recruiting and getting more people to come to our events because it benefited the entirety of the group. So we'd sit down on a monthly basis and kind of ask everybody, hey, like, who do you want to join? And the realtor would say, well, I'm looking for a handyman, an electrician, a this, a that, right? And I would say, well, I'm looking for a photographer, a graphic designer, or this, or that. And then it was the group's job as a whole to start to go and find more of these people. And so there's a very easy way to kind of delegate and get that task off your plate. And it'll take, just a little bit of elbow grease up front, but then it really kind of runs itself once it gets going.
Interesting. Boy, that should be I think as I start to form my goals for the end of the year and into next year, I think that should definitely be part of my daily routine, at least checking in or kind of trying to nurture that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And you could make it even more broader than the video world. You could call it like a creators meetup or something. And if you put that on something like Eventbrite, I think you pay like $19 a month or whatever it is to be able to host events on there. You can make a monthly recurring event on Eventbrite with, the same Zoom link each time, and people will just start to find that and naturally come into the meetings. And then you really don't have to do a ton of marketing as long as you have a base foundation of people that are coming out to make the call worth jumping on.
Wow. Yeah. Good stuff. Real good stuff. Keep that in mind. Definitely. I had a couple other questions if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
I'll try not to blow you up here.
No, let's do it. And I can be long-winded in my answers sometimes. So, if there's, I just like to be, I'm that teacher, right? So I'm just so used to trying to explain it until there's nothing left to be explained.
That's fine, man. That's why your course is awesome. I mean, I sat out here. Yeah, it was like a week. I think I took a week and just kind of sat here in front of my TV and took notes and started to make a plan and everything. Yeah, you had it all laid out. It was great. Okay, so here's the question. Let's see, 1, 2. I just want to figure out which ones I want to actually get an answer for and not like get off the call and be like, oh man. One thing I have trouble with is one of the main convention centers in town has their own AV team, live streaming solutions, lots of that stuff. They're kind of ready to roll with all that. I wonder if, and maybe it's not a thing, but if there's a way that you can present yourself as a better option than the house team. Is there a good strategy for that, or have you encountered that before?
I certainly have. So, and for anyone else that winds up maybe watching this in the future, you've probably heard of a company called Encore or PSAV, and they kind of have that monopoly over a lot of hotels. And so they're like the in-house AV vendors. Let's just say in one word or less, they suck. But so I've run into this scenario though, where people will say, we have in-house options, or, we have this like preferred vendor that we've gone with in the past. So, I've befriended a couple of people in the hotels, specifically managers. And the easiest way to do this was when I go to do site surveys with a client, like let's say they're hosting an event at a certain hotel, I will still spend some time during that site survey to talk to the manager and kind of ask, like, how has your experience been? I know that you have this in-house crew. You might actually find that some hotels don't even have the full capabilities. Like I worked recently this past week at a hotel where, all they could really do is put chairs and tables out and maybe like a little projector screen. But, we had a client that had a high-end investors meeting, and so they really needed audio and TV screens brought in and like bigger AV stuff. So you might get lucky and find that they're a hotel that simply knows they're only capable of certain things. And the way I've kind of worked around that is I now have a few AV vendors locally that I can call up and say, hey, I got a client. We want to bring in 275-inch TVs on truss. They want to get a couple of projector screens, this, that, and the next, pipe and drape, stage, whatever. And they can give me a quote for it pretty quickly, and I can bring them in. And then I can go to the client and say, we've got this full solution for you. So I really try to stress when I do meet those managers that, I try to probe and ask questions first, right? Find out where the holes are. What is it they're not capable of? What is it that they can't do? And then if I have a solution for that, I should let them know and say, hey, look, I just want to let you know that, we're able to cover those gaps where you might not be able to fully service the client. And so I'd love to just, give you my info or pass it along just in case. And I have had a couple of hotel managers that are actually dissatisfied with their in-house team and can't do a whole lot about it since it's kind of a corporate, thing, but they've been able to pass on my information to some clients as they're in those planning and booking phases. For a convention center in bigger areas, the struggle might be that it could be unionized. And so it might be like we found, I think I want to say it was the Denver Convention Center, it was pretty much all union. And so like, if you weren't in the union, like you couldn't even touch a power cord. Like you had to go get a union person and they had to plug it into the wall. And so that's definitely a bigger obstacle there, but that's where it's more important to be connected more with like the event planners themselves, because as they go in and make these, plan these conferences, they're looking at what the venue can do for them AV wise. And I think that if you go to them and you say, look, if you buy out, usually there's some sort of buyout fee for bringing in an outside AV vendor. If you buy out that fee, figure out how much that costs and figure out what they're going to charge you, because there's a good chance you can come in at a much more reasonable price. So part of it is also connecting with those event planners and really getting through to them that you don't have to shell out 30 grand for this thing that I would have charged you 8 for. So if it means that you spend 5 grand to buy out whatever that fee is to bring in an outside vendor, and then you spend another 8 on me, you're still only at $13,000 instead of the 30 grand that they were going to charge you. So, I just try to bring up those conversations as often as I can. I think a lot of it does tend to fall on clients that I'm already working with. So it is definitely harder to break into a bigger venue like that. But that isn't to say that you can't network with some of the AV guys while you're there. I've had so many AV guys that are like, hey, let me get your card, because like we don't always have the ability to offer all these services. And I've had people that keep my info on hand that way too. And you can kind of work around getting through the gatekeeper by actually going to the guy at the very bottom who sets up and runs the room and knows what he can or can't do.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
So long-winded answer on that one. There's no surefire way, right? There's definitely some people that are always going to play gatekeeper and just say, no, we're good. Mm-hmm. But I think that's where probably getting in with some of the event planners, or at least the associations that might rent those venues, could be really helpful. And there is something to be said about reaching out to an event that's happened already and say, hey, I realized last week you had your conference here. I was wondering how it went. I went to your website. I realized that you actually don't have a video that advertised and sold this conference. Is that something maybe you'd think about next year? And just kind of put the bug in their ear and maybe set a reminder for yourself 6 months out to go back to them and say, hey, remember me? 6 months ago, I reached out. I'm willing to bet you're probably getting ready to start planning your next conference here. You're 3-4 months away. If there's anything I can help out with, just let me know. And so I'd say the last piece on that is just that follow-up part is so hard for people to remember. So I just keep a really, really good calendar of like, bug this person. And I'll leave a note like, go bug Tim. You talked to him on September 13th about XYZ, and it's now April 13th. So, it's been half a year. Time to go hit him up again and see where he's at. That follow-up can be huge because people will start to keep those emails in their inbox. And maybe a year or two down the line, they're like, hey, I found your email because we talked forever ago, and I know you said you could do this thing. Like, I've had that. I've had people that'll come back years later, and it's like, I never even worked with them, but I gave them my card one time and we just talked about a couple things, and they just kind of searched their inbox, at some point down the line and found an email from me.
Interesting. Yeah, I try to have like just recently I set up a checklist system for each client I'm reaching out to, and that way I can see like how far along I am with the outreach process. Like, have I emailed them twice? 3 times? I have like maybe 2 or 3 emails until they say, and they don't answer, then I stop. But as long as I haven't checked it off yet, it's like, okay, I'll do that today, you know? But
a good tool for that is Trello. If you haven't played with that,
I've heard
totally
of it. I
free.
haven't.
Yeah, it's totally free. I teach this in so one of the other courses that launched recently is called the 333 Creators Challenge, and the idea is to land 3 new clients in 30 days or less at $3,000 or more.
Nice.
And a lot of this that we've talked about today is definitely stuff that's from there. But Trello, I teach that, you know, you can make 3 or 4 columns of like, you know, in progress, needs to be followed up with, completed project, and then like another column for like, you know, the project is completed, but I should really hit them up in like 6 months time and see where it's at. And then with those columns, you can easily click and drag these little like cards, so to speak. And in those cards, it can be labeled the client name or the project name or whatever, but you can leave notes for yourself of like, emailed this person on this date, talked about XYZ, had this call on this date. And that way you'll know that if you quoted something 8 months ago and they just ghosted you, like you'll have it in your column of like, I need to follow up with these people. And so on a rainy day, you go in there and it's like, boom, here's 18 different people that I should just follow up with. And you can generate new work that way just by reaching out and doing that follow up. Because I've had times where like I forget to follow up and like something will remind me. It's like, shoot, like I quoted something like 4 weeks ago for like a month out. So like it's coming up, and I've had times where I'll reach back out like, hey, I know we sent this quote over, like, have you given it more thought? And sometimes they'll say, oh, sorry, we went another direction, or we're not doing this. But sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, we forgot, we got to get on that, can you get on a call tomorrow? So it's not going to be a large majority of them, but you know, if you're getting 10 or 15% of those follow-ups and converting them back into clients, then it was worth every penny.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that sounds like a great solution, actually. I'll have to look into that. I was trying to figure out a program that would facilitate all that because, yeah, just being by yourself, it's really tough to keep up on who's in what mood, you know, about you, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they happy? Are they ready? Or should I give them a month, you know, and then reach out again?
And just keep it open when you're on calls with them and take your notes right there in the cards so that you've kind of stored a singular card for each client or each person you talk to. My Trello is actually set as my homepage when I open Chrome. So like every day when I sit at the computer, whether I'm going to my email or Facebook or whatever, it's actually going to open a tab with Trello in it so that I can see that right then and there. And it's kind of like this automatic reminder of to me of like, do I need to go follow up with anybody? Do I need to check in on this?
Perfect.
You know, am I going to waste time on YouTube, or could I spend 5 minutes following up with a couple people?
Very good. That's awesome. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Just have a couple more if you don't mind. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah.
Do you advertise on Facebook and Instagram? You do?
I haven't done any ads. I did ads years ago, and I think that there's definitely a lot of good courses that are out there right now teaching ads. Like I even saw an ad the other day of like, hey, I'm a videographer. I teach videographers how to spend $1 on ads and earn $16 in return. I think ads can be good, right? Because you can target them. I can say, I only want people to see this ad that live in Dallas, Texas, that are aged, 40 to 60 years old, that are listed as CEOs in company, like, right? But I think the struggle with ads is more so that people get stuck in this rabbit hole of like, okay, I have to go script a really good video for the ad, but then the ad has to lead to a landing page, but then the landing page has to convert really well because I need them to book a call with me, but then I need them to actually show up for the call. You get stuck in this whole funnel and process. And so I've tried to avoid it because I would much rather just go out there and like hit the pavement and say, I'm going to call the next 30 videographers I can find in Google on this rainy afternoon and just chat them up. To me, that seems like a better investment because all I have to invest is my time. I don't have to invest my money. But if you're going to invest money, I would consider investing in just a decent website design and then some sort of ongoing SEO services that are keeping you up in the rankings.
So SEO would be recommended over, I know like some of the drawbacks I saw, some people were saying, well, if you're not dropping $5,000 on Facebook ads, it's pointless and like stuff like that. And that really discouraged me from like getting into the ad game. But and then I see these CEO or SEO, advertisements and whatnot, and I don't know if that's, but you would probably recommend going that route, huh?
I've experimented in a few different ways on the SEO side. And so I think what happens with like the Facebook ad game and probably similar for other platforms is that they don't tell you that there's a lot of this experimentation that has to happen up front. So you're like, yeah, I'm going to throw $500 at it and see what happens, right? Because I'm okay spending $500 because if I get one client, it'll pay for itself. But what happens is you're at $350, $400 on ad spend and you haven't had a single thing come in because you have to start to split test things and figure out, does this audience click through more than the other audience? Does a video work better than a photo? And you think you know your audience, right?
Yeah.
Like I can go look at my last 15 clients and say, here's my audience. They're, Caucasian men that are CEOs in company, I can come up with an avatar, so to speak. But to be honest with you, like you'll get through a few $100 of spend, you won't get a client. And then someone's going to be like, oh, you did this wrong, or you just need to optimize this, or you need to keep trying and testing this or that.
Right.
And all the courses tell you this too, right? It's all test. And it's like, okay, how long do I have to test? How many more $500 drops do I have to do before now I'm $2,500 in? I've gotten one client, but I don't want to have to go drop another $2,500 just to get one more client.
And how much time are you spending trying to figure out what's working and what's not? Like, wow.
And I kind of relate it a little bit to the stock market. I see this if you're ever on Reddit or just watching, like people will be like, I got $1,000. What should I do? And they're like, invest it. And you're like, great, I'm going to put it in the stock market. And then the next day, what happens? The market goes down and you're like, no, I had $1,000. I'm down to $800. Pull it out, right? Yeah. And now you're down to $800. And then you're like, oh man, the stock market's flying today. I'm going to go buy GameStop, right? And then you go buy $800 worth. And the next day it goes down again. And you're like, now I'm down to $500. So I think what happens is like similar to the stock market is you're like, I'm going to do ads. And you jump in and you're like, here's $500. Take my money. And then what happens is you spent the money and you're like, I haven't gotten a client yet. Why hasn't this worked? And people are like, oh, you got to test. You got to do this. You got to change it up. And you're like, so it's
every time you decide to test, you lose $500 and you're like back out again.
Yeah. I think if you wanted to, if you have at least a good website and Google business profile, you could consider doing at least Google paid ads because it will pump up your website in the search results for people that are, targeted. So like for me, like if I ran an ad, I could target videographer in Washington, D.C. and like my website will come up if someone searches for that. And so I would say if you want to play with it, maybe try Google business ads over Facebook or Instagram first. And especially because it's so easy to find. Normally they offer you credit like the first time you do it. They'll be like, here's a $200 or $300 credit. So you might be able to find a promo code just to play with to see even if it's worth your time. And a good way to tell is do it yourself. Like jump on Google and type in, wedding videographer in my city, and then look at how many of them are ads that pop up right there. If there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, then a ton of people are paying and it's really competitive and it's probably not worth it because you're going to pay higher ad spend than they are just to get above them. But if no one's doing it, then you might have a better shot.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I was definitely going for the Google. I named my company Livestream Madison just to like get that kind of searchability, if that's even a word. And so I think Google is definitely where I kind of want to go for people who are just kind of searching the universe for live stream, AV, all that type of stuff. So I definitely need to get connected with someone who can do the SEO thing, though. I think that will be much better than advertising. I don't know.
And it'll definitely be beneficial to have a few pages on your website because if you think about it, like some people will search for live space streaming, right? And then others are going to search for streaming and others are going to search for live streaming as one word. And then, So try to find as many combos of what people might be searching for, and make additional pages on your website that are called that, because that'll also get tracked in the Google search results. And so, it's just more Google juice or SEO juice towards your website, to have some content on each page that, is really keyword loaded with live streaming, event streaming, event AV, Zoom, virtual, everything.
Interesting. That's I built the website, but I haven't really touched it since. So I definitely need to get in there and kind of start to make things happen that way. Thank you. I got one more.
And don't do Yelp ads. Don't do Yelp ads.
No Yelp. Okay. Sorry, Yelp. Last question. I've been playing around with an idea of a money back guarantee. I guess I'm wondering, my dad owns his own business as well, and he has a money-back guarantee. It's a way that he is able to show, that he stands by his work. But I've also been told it's a terrible idea. So what do you think?
In theory, I like the idea, right? Like, even with my course, I think there's try it for 7 days. And I've had a couple people that, hit me up, say, hey, look, I'm sorry, this wasn't for me. No harm done. Like, I don't want to do you a disservice. I think you might be able to create a more creative version of that, where it's like, hey, if you don't get the results, and I think you have to have a very specific or clear message, right? Of like, if you don't like the live stream, how about we'll do it again for you free of charge? Because I'd rather see you get another shot at making it right for them than see you giving them their money back and just parting ways, unless it was like really, really bad, right? So like for me, I would almost want to say, like, I want to come off from the standpoint of, not only do we want to see you succeed and we want to make something great for you, but like, we want to get it right. And so if we didn't nail it on the first time, like, we're going to do it again, and we're going to sit on the phone with you. We're going to find out what you didn't like, what you want to change, how you want to do it better. Because if I just say money back guarantee, like, it's not my responsibility to get viewers on the stream. Like, if the company is bad at marketing their conference or event or whatever it is, and I've had it. I've had times where there's 500 people in the room, there's 17 watching on Zoom. It does happen. But like, that shouldn't fall on me where I have to give you a refund just because you didn't market or have the audience to come out and watch this. So that's where I just try to find a more creative way of like, if we didn't knock your socks off, like, you could even call it something fun, like the knock your socks off guarantee, right? If we didn't knock your socks off the first time around, we want to show you our other foot. We want to give you our best foot forward. I think that might be a better way to do it, just because it shows that you really care about getting it right. And that, to me, speaks volumes compared to just, yeah, well, we screwed up, so here's your money back. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a way forward, like, hey, maybe with a little tweak here or there, you'll absolutely love what we do, kind of thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. Very interesting. Oh, that's great. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate it. We could probably go on forever. But right now I'm targeting a rendition of the Nutcracker here in Madison. They do two nights in December, and they have a videography crew that I can definitely do at least as good as, plus the live streaming option. They don't live stream yet, and they sell the video after the fact because there's a lot of parents out of town that want to see it. And so I'm kind of chasing this one right now, and I'm really hoping for some good things. They've had board meetings, and then they've said, oh, we didn't really discuss it, get back to us in a month. And then they have board meetings that, oh, we're not ready to commit to something yet. And I need to get, I think her on the phone is where we need to go, because she asked a lot of questions and said, I know a phone call is probably better, and so now I just need to make that happen. And hopefully that's my next job. I'll show you on Facebook if I got it or not.
Yeah. I would say make a Google booking link. This is a new feature where Google has actually taken on Calendly, and you can make a booking and call reservation link yourself for free in Google Calendars. And I just have a link now that's in the bottom of my my email signature, and it just has my Zoom Zoom room default link as like the location for the call. So anytime someone books, it immediately sends them a calendar invite, and it gives them the Zoom link so I can jump in.
Wow.
And it'll look at your Google Calendar. So as long as you're good at putting your availability on the calendar, you can even tell it, like, don't let someone book same day. Like, make sure that they have to book at least 12 hours out so you don't get caught off guard with something coming in an hour from now.
Jeez, that's awesome.
There's a lot of really good settings there, but just make it stupid easy on them so you don't have to do that back and forth of like, oh, I'm available at this time. Can you do that time? Actually, I'm busy that week. Just give them one link. Here's my availability. Book the call and we'll chat then. And then it's very easy to just follow up if they haven't booked.
Wow, I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, it's quick and easy to make. And then one last thing too is don't skip over the thought that you could potentially find a way to make that video company your partner. You could approach them and say, I do live streaming. I know you have this client. I think it's a great event. Is it something where maybe you would consider bringing me on additionally so that you can offer a service that you guys don't sell? One of my other very consistent clients has been a local video company that they have 7 or 8 full-time staff. They have animators, editors, directors of photography, but they don't have a live streaming guy because they just don't have a full-time need for it. So I've become their go-to live stream person, and they give me a conference probably every other month. And I walk away with $2,000 for the day, and all I have to do is show up with my gear. They give me a camera guy. He brings the cameras. So, I'm just handling the stream, the switching, video. So you never know what you can get out of networking with the other video companies. And especially if you're trying to target a certain client, you're like, I know that this client has this event. I know they have a video team already. Don't discount being able to just network directly with that team. If things don't
instead of losing out on
themselves.
a job that they would normally have, you can kind of be attached to that job now.
And especially if that's the type of jobs that you want, then go for the video company that's landing and doing those jobs, right? Like go to them instead of trying to have to go find the clients that do that.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. It's good stuff.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad I follow along with your stuff, man. You're definitely out there doing, and it's great. It's like a very, like I said, I knew the camera, but I had no idea what the business running of it all, like doing it solo is kind of interesting. And then B, all the technicalities of live streaming, it's been such a huge help. So, I mean, on behalf of a lot of people, I'm sure, thank you very much. It's awesome. Good stuff.
Of course, absolutely. It's one of those things where, just like everybody else, I started somewhere.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the business. It took a lot of learning from other people and piecing together and trying to figure it all out. And I still admit to this day, like I have not figured it all out. I've just figured out a lot of things that can help a lot of people and just trying to share it as best as I can.
Yeah, really appreciate the transparency. I think that's been a breath of fresh air for sure. So thanks for everything, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you're interested in learning more about live streaming and learning all of the A to Z, including both the technical side and the business and landing client side, feel free to check out Six Figure Live Streamer at streamingmastery.com. There are also links below so that you can get my free pricing guide that teaches you how to price your services so that you can land higher paying clients. Until next time.